Alright, so what's the big deal with Risk of Rain 2 console updates? Well, essentially, a good number of people are not too happy with them, especially as of recently. I mean, just glimpse at almost any Risk of Rain 2 social media platform and you're guaranteed to see some complaints about them. And while this opinion isn't exactly held by the majority of console players, it's evident that there are a good number of console players who hold it, seeing as there are discussions about it, well, everywhere I could find. Twitter, Discord, Reddit, YouTube, Carrier Pigeon, everywhere. But what really is the issue? What about console updates has got so many people riled up? Well, you'll just have to tune in next episode to find out. Sorry. I've been sick recently, so I've been binge watching a lot of Netflix. So, yeah, I'll just start the video now. Whoosh. Risk of Rain 2, like many other games, has updates, which of course is great. And the updates themselves are also great. They have great content and great additions and fixes to the game, and function very well on both PC and console alike, and most PC players seem pretty content with them. So why are some console players mad at the console updates? Well, what's got console players so annoyed isn't the update's content itself. It's the distribution. But first, before we tackle this whole debacle, let's get into some important background information. Risk of Rain 2's updates and patches are made for PC first and then ported to console afterwards. This is because all content so far is developed for the PC version of the game first, and then that content is formatted for console, and that whole process takes lots of time to do. They have to get all of the content ported over correctly, make sure it's all in order and runs smoothly on each console, and work with each console company, Sony, Xbox, and Nintendo, to make sure the updates pass all their guidelines and are cleared to launch. Added on to this, most of the console update porting is done through a third party, Play Everywhere, and the clearing of the updates done by each console company is, well, done by each console company on their time. Granted, Hopo Games does have some control on the console updates, as they do watch over the development process at Play Everywhere somewhat, but to my knowledge they have pretty limited capacity to do much about the development, and of course they have no control over Xbox or Sony or Nintendo's clearing process for the updates. This all culminates to the fact that a good chunk of the console update porting process isn't really in the hands of Hopo Games themselves, and thus it takes however long it takes the third parties to finish the updates, which is often a long period of time. And therein lies the issue, the porting of the console updates. What's got so many people riled up against Hopo Games is the fact that there is a noticeably large gap between PC and console updates, and, I think more importantly, Hopo Games just seems to give as little info as possible about the status of the console update's development. To best demonstrate what I mean, I'll use a very recent and very important example of this issue, something that really flamed this whole catastrophe up recently, the Anniversary Update. The big, spectacular update that brought Bandit, new items, new enemies, new lore entries, tons of stuff, and it was all free. It was a pretty big deal, and everyone was very excited to play it. We knew all the way back in December what month it was going to be released in, March, from a Steam news post, so there was plenty of time to be excited. And as March came about, to hype up the update, Risk of Rain 2 did these posts on Twitter. Starting in March, they made very ambiguous posts, each one adding slightly more detail on what appeared to be a date, along with a mysterious image. Well, people quickly put two and two together and realized this was a countdown for the release of the Anniversary Update. And surprise, surprise, it was, finally releasing with a bang on March 25th. Hooray, hurrah, everyone's happy, that's it, video's over, happy ending. Except not quite. It was super fun and super great for PC players. Console players, not so much. It's not coming to console yet. That's fine though, right? I mean, Risk of Rain 2 updates have always been PC first, console later. Besides, Hopo Games said in a dev thoughts about the Anniversary Update that they are keeping console in mind and are working hard with their third parties to get the console update out. It'll come to console players soon, everyone said. We're sure Hopo Games will keep us in the loop about it. Everyone just stop complaining and be patient. And so everyone waited. And waited, and waited, and waited. Days, weeks, a month, over a month, and nothing. No word whatsoever, and people were sure asking all over social media, but solid was given from Hopo Games, no tangible dates, no solid info, nothing. However, on May 7th, we were finally hit with glorious news. The Anniversary Update will come in June. Okay, a little far from the PC updates by months, and the announcement was over a month after the PC announcement, but hey, it's here, it's a big update anyway, so of course it's going to take time, we'll calm down, let's just see exactly when. So June rolled around, and nothing. No prior countdown, no tweets in June, no Discord posts, no mentioning, nothing. They sent one more tweet on May 20th restating that the update was coming in June and responded to some complaints with it's coming in June, but that was it. As the days passed on, I began to question if it was really coming in June or not, and I got kind of worried as I play on Switch and I really wanted to play the Anniversary Update in June since that's the date Hopo Games gave us. But then, on June 22nd, we found the final resolve through a tweet posted that day. The update was coming on June 29th. True to Hopo Games' word, kinda. I mean, they said June, but it was like the very end of June, and we got no updates at all in the time in between, like PC did, but hey, at least it's here, that's it, it's done, it's over, we got the update, the end, again. Except, I know, hold on, except for Switch. At the time of this recording, Switch is not getting the anniversary update until sometime in the future. Cool beans. Thanks, Nintendo. So yeah, this whole event got a lot of console players riled up. I mean, we got months of gap from such a big update until it came to console when PC already had it, and it seemed like Hobo Games just kinda didn't want to give many updates about the progress of the console updates. And most importantly, this isn't an isolated incident either. Hobo Games has always kinda had a tendency to have uninformed blocks of time for console updates, while PC updates seem to get more of the spotlight. The anniversary update was just especially annoying and confusing to console players due to the really long time it took to be ported and the little info we got during its progress. And to make matters worse, this wasn't some small bug fix or patch that console players could just look over. No, this was a huge amount of content that console players missed out on for months while PC got to enjoy it. This event refired the flame of annoyance some console players have always had about Risk of Rain 2's updates and patches for console. With the anniversary update confirming it, it just seemed like Hobo Games has always kinda not been quite on top of console updates like they have PC updates, ever since Risk of Rain 2's origins years ago, with the same kind of thing happening with updates like the 1.0 update. So that's basically what happened, and it's pretty much the summary of this whole console update catastrophe, but I'd like to dig more into the implications of the event. In my opinion, I think the bigger underlying issue here isn't actually the long time it takes for console updates to come out, even though that is usually the focal point of the complaints about the console updates. I understand that there isn't much Hobo Games can do in the way of speeding up the console update porting process, as almost all of it is in the hands of third parties. And while not everyone knows that, I think a good number of people have realized it by now, as Hobo Games has repeatedly mentioned how their third parties are working on the console updates, and they kinda just have to wait. I think the actual focal point of this whole issue is the kind of refusal by Hobo Games themselves to keep console players in the loop about console updates' progress. Take the anniversary update as example again. I think a lot of the annoyance on part of the console players could have been alleviated if Hobo Games just gave more info about the update's progress. Anything, really. Dates, progress, hindrances even, just some regular news on the progress of the update. Something to show console players that there was active work in the updates, that they were doing the best they could. I assume Hobo Games has at least some sort of idea of how the updates are progressing, even if they aren't taking part in the process themselves, so relaying that info to us would have been extremely helpful in alleviating tensions in console players. Essentially, I think Hobo Games should have just given console players the same spotlight as PC players when it came to info on updates. Leaving everyone in the dark about the update progress just made it seem like the updates were taking a long time and there wasn't any effort towards working on it. What I see as a big issue isn't the long waiting time on updates, as that's just out of Hobo Games' hands for the most part. I think the big issue is this just lack of info console players get about the console update progress, because that can be solved by Hobo Games themselves, yet it hasn't been solved. We don't need multiple tweets for every patch that makes it to console or anything, but at least for the larger updates, I think we console players could use a little more info. Like for the anniversary update, I would be totally satisfied with Hobo Games telling everyone in a tweet or a Discord announcement every other week or maybe longer, maybe shortening the amount of time between tweets and posts the closer we get to the update's planned release. Something like, hey, the anniversary update for console is coming along, then share a bit on specifics, but we are still mostly on schedule. We don't know the exact day due to the uncertainty of the update progress as of now, but we will let you all know as soon as we can. If they have anything of a solid date, then as soon as possible, say, hey, the update's set to come on this date if things go as planned, and keep the tweets up as the deadline becomes more clear. Like, yeah, this month, then yeah, this half of the month, then yeah, this week, and then yeah, this day. Just something to show that there's active work on the updates, something to confirm the worried console players that the updates are making progress, something like the PC players are getting. It doesn't have to be like an exact date several months out from release or anything like that, just something to keep console players in the loop, since we're all anxious to get in on what PC is most likely already enjoying. Just do the things Hobo Games does for PC, for console. I don't get why this kind of thing isn't done for the console updates, and I think that it's hurting Hobo Games, since that's more console players that might quit the game and future ones that might be turned away from hearing about the lackluster console experience. Console players are a huge portion of the Risk of Rain 2 player base, so it's crucial for Hobo Games to keep them in the loop about console updates, since they can't directly control the console updates' release times. While not everyone is annoyed by the updates and all, the ones that are have some numbers, so Hobo Games should probably work to control their handling of it through keeping us console players more in the loop. But that's just me, and this was such a huge, massively opinionated segment that I made while I'm sick that it's probably got holes, so I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments about the situation, so be sure to leave some. Also, I really don't like talking negative about Hobo Games, so don't take that segment as me kinda just trying to diss Hobo Games and Risk of Rain 2 and say they're bad. They're perfectly fine. But that about wraps up the video. So, dear viewers, what do you think about all this? Was this ordeal very important? Were the reactions appropriate? Please let me know in the comments. Oh, and by the way, my next video will be coming out sometime in this next decade, so look forward to that. No other questions, please. Next progress update is in 2023. Bye.